All right, so first things first, to kick off today's cannabis-powered yet sports-driven talk show. It's hard to deny the positive effect that cannabis has had on sports in the past and sports today as we know it. Cannabis is a part of sports whether you like it or not.
The Fantasy Football Huddle, presented by the Huddle Chat Sports Show and your host, Dallas Clark, also known as Indo is my Nindo. Everybody huddle up, grab a piece of paper, and get settled in. It's just about time for the Fantasy Football Huddle, presented by the Huddle Chat Sports Show and your host, Indo is my Nindo. Let's get it started, baby.
Good morning, baby. Welcome back to the Huddle Chat Sports Network, very own Huddle Chat Sports Show. We're doing our live stream, as you guys know, we love to do here on Sunday mornings. Get you that nice pregame information, get you the injury breakdowns. We got some big injuries even to start the morning off, and we haven't even gotten the injury report yet. Give you guys some good safe betting lines as well. And I've also got for you guys my very first inaugural special guest host here today on the Huddle Chat Sports live stream, Rios, representing the H-Town Down Under. My boy, how you doing this morning?
Man, you had the baby making music going on earlier. I was like,
you know it. We got to start out the mornings nice and smooth, nice and relaxed. You know, we can't get too hyped because that keeps me from getting too hype on the show.
Feel that.
I'm loving the haircut. How you feeling this morning, man?
Pretty good, man. I woke up pretty early and got workout in, feeling good. Getting ready to sit on the couch and watch football all day.
Hell yeah, man. There's nothing better than that. I woke up this morning. It's 46 degrees in Colorado right now. It's hoodie weather today. It's officially fall football time.
Not for us. It's like in the 80s right now.
Oh, damn, man. That's crazy. I mean, it like rained all night out here in the Colorado Springs area. So it ended up being pretty chilly when we woke up this morning. So you guys, who are the Texans playing this morning?
We play Minnesota.
Minnesota. How you feeling about that game today?
Little word, man, that they got a pretty legit team. I think going into the offseason, no one really knew what to expect from the Vikings. We weren't sure if they were, rebuilding or if they were going to, try to compete. Like, it all came down to the quarterback play, but, like, they added some pieces on defense, and they look like a legit playoff team right now.
Yeah, I've been telling everybody that's kind of one of my biggest worries about like Houston Texans players when it comes to fantasy football today is that Minnesota Vikings defense has been surprisingly the best pressure rate among all NFL teams right now among quarterbacks. They've already got 11 sacks. CJ's been sacked 7 times with this banged up O-line. So I think that the Texans, I mean, I think the Texans win, but it's going to be a lot better of a game than anybody thought on paper coming into the year.
Yeah, it's going to be another close one-score game. Like it's been the motto all season for us. With a win's a win.
I mean, exactly. A win's a win, and I know, like, from my Colts, man, we need a win more than anything right now. Our show out last week against the Green Bay Packers. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm kind of lucky that I didn't do the AFC South podcast this week because your boy was on one throughout, at least until Wednesday. I had a stank face all week long. I can't stand the Packers. I can't stand that we lost to such a terrible team. The Colts just didn't even look like an NFL team last week, but we got our Super Bowl rematch, so I had to bust out the Joseph Adai Super Bowl jersey today. Hopefully we get into that Bears ass today, man, and we can fucking make Caleb Williams look like he looked last week at least.
Y'all should. I mean, their defense is pretty legit, but if you can stop their running game, Caleb, he's not ready to light up the league, with his arm just yet.
Definitely not. So we're coming off of that New England Patriots-Jets game on Thursday Night Football, and Aaron Rodgers, for the first time, looked a lot like himself finally. What was your thoughts on that last game that we just had on Thursday?
I don't know if it was so much Aaron Rodgers being himself or the Patriots just aren't as good a football team as people made them out to be through the first 2 weeks because they played, some mediocre opponents, and then people are like, oh, okay, maybe the Patriots are back. Nah, they're not a good football team.
Oh yeah, I definitely see what you're saying there for sure. And in my personal opinion, like I said, like you said, the Patriots defense definitely gave Aaron Rodgers the opportunity for a get right game. However, like I said, like seeing him get outside of the pocket, I believe before going into this week, Aaron Rodgers had 0 completions outside of the pocket, so he hasn't been extending the plays like we know Aaron Rodgers to be able to do. You're also looking at like Garrett Wilson only having 1 target more than 10 yards. Aaron Rodgers just hasn't been throwing Aaron Rodgers passes. And like I said, I don't know if it was the easier matchup with the New England Patriots defense or if Aaron Rodgers finally was starting to shake some of that rust off. But it was kind of cool, I guess, to see, but kind of sickening to see the Patriots and the Jets on a Thursday night football game. Second of 3 weeks that we've seen the Jets on primetime.
It gets worse this upcoming Thursday. It's the Giants and the Cowboys. I'm like,
oh yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's what as a team that doesn't have any, if many, primetime games at all. It's one of those things you look at and you say, why have I seen the Falcons on primetime 2 out of the 3 weeks in the first 3 weeks of the season? Why are the Jets? Why are the Giants getting Thursday night football? I know Giants Cowboys is a rivalry matchup. Let's throw it on Fox and make it America's game of the week like we do every time.
Right? Like it's been a decided rivalry for the last decade. I think I can put one hand the number of Giants wins against the Cowboys in the last few years.
Honestly, I mean, but I do know I definitely think that I'm going to be sitting Dak Prescott this week for the Dallas Cowboys. I think that Baltimore Ravens matchup this week for the Cowboys is going to be pretty tough. I think this is going to be one of the more interesting games of the week for sure on this slate. I think both defenses are at elite levels. You look at that Ravens defense, you look at that Cowboys defense, but I truly think that Dak Prescott is going to struggle to get it going against this Ravens defense. He doesn't have that rushing upside like Lamar does. What do you think?
No, I agree with you on that one. I think the Ravens defense could really focus on shutting down the running game and force Dak to be one-dimensional. And when he's one-dimensional, we've seen him over the years. He's prone to making those boneheaded turnovers,
exactly,
or picks. And it's going to be pretty similar to that Saints game. They're going to same game plan, and they're going to make the Cowboys fans turn the TV off at halftime.
Definitely, man. It's one of those things because my whole family's Cowboys fans. I was named after the Dallas Cowboys, so I do get a sick enjoyment when the Cowboys lose. It's one of those like last week, the Colts lost. I had my Patriots friend over here. Patriots lost. I had my Bears friend over here. Bears lost. Cowboys lost. It's like I at least got enjoyment out of everybody else's misery last week if I couldn't find my own enjoyment.
When the Cowboys lose, America wins.
Exactly. That's damn right. So this week, speaking of that Giants game on Thursday Night Football, you got the Giants facing the Cleveland Browns this week in Cleveland. And man, I just don't think that I don't think there are many games on the schedule this week that I'm less interested in watching than Deshaun Watson play against Daniel Jones and Devin Singletary. I mean, I don't really trust much of the Giants defense or Giants offense because of this Browns defense. And with Deshaun Watson right now, I think until they make the switch to Jameis Winston, which they won't because they paid Watson so much, it's going to be hard to watch Cleveland Brown football.
It's going to be a long season for him. Like, he is completely regressed. Like, he looks like a shell of himself, which as a human being, I am happy about.
Yeah. So as a human being, I love this. So we got a question real quick from Jake Rings. He said, Juwan Jennings, Demarcus Robinson, or Jalen Waddle. So first, to start that off, I'm not starting Jalen Waddle this week. I'm taking the wait-and-see approach with Jalen Waddle. With Skylar Thompson at quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, you're looking at Jalen Waddle's production in those 3 games 2 years ago when Tua went out with the concussions. You're looking at Jalen Waddle's production dipping significantly. Everybody's production dipped a lot. But Jalen Waddle particularly was only getting about 5 targets and 3 receptions a game, about 57 yards per game. So I'm just not very comfortable with Jalen Waddle. Demarcus Robinson, I do think Demarcus Robinson has a great chance to be started this week. But Juwan Jennings, when you're looking at a big news information I haven't given you guys yet, George Kittle has just been named out for this morning's game. I guess he was doubtful going into Friday practice, and he is no longer going to be in the starting lineup for the Niners. So you're looking at the Niners missing Debo, Christian McCaffrey, and George Kittle. They got to make plays to somebody not named Brandon Ayuk. And I think Juwan Jennings is definitely going to be the guy. I think Brandon Ayuk also shakes the rust off this week. However, I think Juwan Jennings, until George Kittle went out, I wasn't feeling great about Juwan Jennings, but the targets have to go somewhere in this offense. And we know how that Kyle Shanahan offense likes to run. We also got a nice go Packers. Fuck the Packers, man. I'm not gonna lie. And Elijah said, the Bears are going to win. Thanks for sharing. Elijah, I can't. That's my Bears fan right here, man. And I apologize. It's going to look very similar to that 2008. I know we've all been watching that. I don't know why it got popular this week, the Super Bowl intros for the Colts Bears Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Peyton Manning and everybody all turning around like, yeah, Peyton Manning. Tennessee Volunteers. It was definitely – got me hyped for this week, put us in the right mindset. And that's why I said that's why I wore the Super Bowl jersey this week. Had to do it. But as far as that Giants-Cleveland Browns game, I'm definitely going to be going with Cleveland to take that win. Moving on to the Chicago-Indianapolis game that we talked about as well. I think Indianapolis wins, and it's going to be a closer game than Colts fans want. But I think Anthony Richardson is in a get-right game. I'm thinking 2 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdowns from Anthony Richardson, and I'm thinking Jonathan Taylor over 80 rushing yards as well. That's the formula the Colts need to go with if they want to win, at least. So if you're a Colts fan, you're expecting the Colts to win, I'm taking those numbers right there. And then like I talked about with Rios earlier, we got that Houston-Minnesota game. Minnesota is going to put up a badass battle, but Houston definitely is going to come in at the end. If Houston doesn't come in, I mean, I feel like as a Texans fan, you'd start to you're not worried per se, you're not hitting the panic button, but that's when you start to say, man, like we're letting ourselves lose these easily winnable games for no reason.
Well, it kind of reminds me of last year. Last year, they kind of had a slow start, and then week 3 against the Steelers, they just everything clicked, and they dropped 30 on them, and then 30 again the next week against the Jaguars, and we played them in week 4 as well. So I think it's going to be similar to last year, where this is their, the offense finally puts it all together. They put up more than 27 points, and then they just start clicking. And then that's
the same formula the Bengals like to run with. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase are historically bad in September. Normally it takes the Bengals, whether it's because they don't play enough in the preseason or whatever. Normally it takes the Bengals until about this week to get it going. And speaking of the Bengals, that's another thing I wanted to talk to you guys about today was this Bengals team. I know it's not until Monday Night Football, but I'm all in when it comes to the Cincinnati Bengals this week. You're looking at Joe Burrow having that ability to get a get-right game against probably the worst secondary in the NFL in the Washington Commanders. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins is going to be back in the lineup. If you need a streaming tight end, Mike Gesicki is going to be worth an option. I'm all in on the Cincinnati Bengals when it comes to fantasy football this week. Due to what I just said, they typically start slow in September. And now they're starting to get their form. They got all their players back on offense. So I definitely think Cincinnati runs away with it in Washington on Monday night. And Bengals players, owners on fantasy football are going to rejoice that they didn't hit the panic button too early.
I hope so, because I have Jamar Chase in all my fantasy leagues.
See, I went smart this year because I know how. I mean, when you're looking at Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, Puka Nacua, all of the first-round draft picks that have already gone out, I was smart this year, and I think I had 5 drafts on one day, and so I took CeeDee Lamb in one round in my first round. I took Christian McCaffrey in one of them in the first round. I tried to spread out my first-round picks to a different player, so I didn't end up Tyreek Hill in 3 leagues fucked right now.
Yeah, so I feel. No, I was debating either getting Jefferson or Jamar Chase, but Jamar Chase is on a contract year. He's going to ball up because he's going to want to secure the bag.
Yeah, see, I went with the ideology that everybody was going with last year, that Joe Burrow was coming in last year to potentially an MVP potential season until he took those injuries. And the injuries kind of is what we were using as the excuse on why Joe Burrow played so much worse last year than we have seen in his NFL career. So I went with that ideology that Joe Burrow's back. He's healthy. Jamar is healthy. This Bengals offense they dealt with a lot of adversity last year. And with that in the rearview mirror, they should be able to turn it around. And Joe Burrow is going to be back on that MVP track. But throughout the first 2 weeks, or at least the first week, did not seem much like that. Joe Burrow was decent last week, but nothing hinge breaking. But no quarterback really in the NFL has really been, Derek Carr is the number 1 quarterback in the league right now.
Derek Carr and Minshew, like they're the league leaders right now.
Yeah.
In yards. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, I think week 1 it was like Derek Carr and Sam Darnold or something crazy. It was like there was only 2 quarterbacks that threw more than 2 touchdowns in the first week of the season, and it was like Derek Carr, Sam Darnold, or something like that.
Yeah, I think most of the top quarterbacks in the first 2 weeks played, top-notch defenses, and it, kind of affects them a little bit.
Yeah, I haven't actually been able to do that research on that. The statistic I've been seeing, but I keep seeing this number, I think, on Twitter, and it's the amount of touchdowns thrown by NFL quarterbacks through the first 2 weeks. And it's like significantly lower this season. It's like it's been in the hundreds in the last few seasons, and then now it's like it was like 67 touchdowns throughout that first act of football that we've had so far.
Yeah, that was crazy. Like I never really thought about it that much till you saw the graphic, and it dropped by like 50%. I'm like,
yeah, like once you saw that graphic, you were like, yes, actually that makes sense. I haven't really seen many touchdowns go crazy. I mean, running backs have been back on a tear this year. Looking at Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley, there's been multiple running backs that have already gone 2-3 touchdown games, which has been nice to see.
Right. I mean, the NFL cycles. Before it used to be a running league, then it turned into a passing league. Maybe we're seeing the move back to it being, running back oriented again.
Yeah, it might be a large part due to the fact that I did hear in that very first game, they were talking about a lot more. They started doing with Patrick Mahomes. A lot more defenses are running now 2 safeties high to prevent the passing game. And they started it with Patrick Mahomes like the year before. And now most NFL defenses are running 2 safeties high to stifle that passing game. And I think that's got a large part to do with what's going on here. But speaking of Derek Carr, one of the top 3 fantasy football quarterbacks right now, you got the Philadelphia.
Hearing that,
so it feels crazy hearing it. It feels crazy saying it. I don't think anybody would have thought at any point in the season Derek Carr would be a top 3 quarterback this year. But you got Derek Carr playing them Philadelphia Eagles in New Orleans this week after stifling that Dallas Cowboys defense last week, after embarrassing the Panthers, but the Panthers embarrassed themselves by even showing up that day. So you're looking at that New Orleans Saints Philadelphia Eagles game, and I think this might be another great game for Derek Carr. I mean, if he was able to do and the Saints were able to do what they did against a much better secondary in the Dallas Cowboys last week, what do you think they're going to do against the Eagles, who they always allow points? Their secondary is very questionable. I mean, look at what they allowed on Monday Night Football this last week to end the game against the Falcons. Like, I definitely think the Saints could win this.
Yeah, they let Kirk Cousins, who has historically been terrible in primetime, march down the field and win the game. Kirko bangs.
Kirko bangs for real. I mean, I definitely can hear the ghost of Poppy coming through the airwaves right now. Fuck the Saints, but you know what I'm saying? I think the Saints might be pissing Poppy off this week because I'm looking at the Saints potentially having a great opportunity to go 3-0. But you're looking at that Philadelphia Eagles, of course, defending NFC champions and stuff or the defending NFC championship game appearance, defending NFC East champions. I don't think they lay down that easily, looking at this being a morning game. And I think this might potentially be one of the highest scoring games today, to be honest with you. I actually made a pretty wild move this morning. After George Kittle went out, I started getting nervous. I have Jordan Love as my quarterback in one league. Of course, he's not starting. And I had Brock Purdy as my quarterback too. But now with Brock Purdy, no Christian McCaffrey, putting up 10 points in week 1, 15 points in week 2. No Christian McCaffrey, no Deebo Samuel, no George Kittle. It's hard to trust Brock Purdy this week. And Derek Carr was sitting out there on my waiver wires. So I made the last second decision, switch Derek Carr up to my starting quarterback for Brock Purdy this week. And I'm not going to lie to you, I think that might be the way to go this week. I did tons of research on it, looked at all kinds of different rankings online, my own rankings. And at the end of the day, everybody thinks Derek Carr is going to be a better quarterback this week than Brock Purdy.
He should. I mean, he's done it so far against good defenses. Like, it'd be one thing if he's playing the Panthers level teams every week, but he's done it against good defenses.
Exactly.
That new coordinator, the Kubiaks, man, they have the cheat code when it comes to these mediocre quarterbacks, making them look like Pro Bowlers. Like, I don't get it. They did it with Matt Schaub. Everywhere they go, they just have this. Their offensive system is just, I don't know. It does something to some of these quarterbacks, and they just have career years under them. And we might see Derek Carr. He might have a career year this year.
I feel like Derek Carr he's feeling just about as good as he was that year that he took the Raiders to the playoffs and the Colts like broke his tibia and fibula in that playoff game. And they had a really, I can't remember what year it was, but I remember like the Raiders were on a tear that year. The Broncos, it was before the Patrick Mahomes era, right after the Peyton Manning era, and the Raiders had a small window there.
I want to say it was like 2015.
Yeah, it was quite a while ago, but I remember like the Raiders ended up beating us in that game, but they ended up not going very much farther than that because Derek Carr took a pretty bad injury in that game.
Yeah, it was like 2014 to 2015. It was like right towards the end of Peyton Manning's run in Denver.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's see what we got here. I'm trying to see if they've released any injury reports at the current moment. They always do it 1 hour before games, so we got like 5 more minutes here. So we're gonna try to bust through the rest of these morning games before we get into this injury report here. So the next morning game, we're gonna be talking about that Chargers-Pittsburgh Steelers game. 2-2-0 teams, which at week 1, I wouldn't have thought Pittsburgh Steelers-Chargers would be 2-0 versus 2-0.
I mean, that's what the Harbaughs do. Everywhere they go, they turn their team into winners because they have that old school mentality. Strong run game, strong defense.
And that's exactly what they've been. And I knew going into the year that when it comes to this Chargers offense, they have been one of the offenses that passes at the highest clip throughout Justin Herbert's career. They've been one of the offenses that runs the most plays in the NFL. But I did not think they were going to be that same offense this year because that's just not how Harbaugh plays football.
No, not at all. And we've seen it everywhere he's gone. When he took over the 49ers, he kind of gave them their identity. Hey, let's go back to being a running team. They focus on the run. And then he brought the same mentality to Michigan.
Yeah.
And all they do is win. Everywhere they go, they win. Like he won a national title at Michigan. Then he went with the 49ers. But, I mean, I'm thinking, the Chargers ownership, they brought him here because they're like, hey, we're hoping he brings that championship pedigree here to LA Chargers now. I was about to say San Diego. Like, wait, no, they're not San Diego.
Yeah, it happens sometimes. It slips out of there. Just like the Oakland Raiders. Sometimes I catch myself still doing that. Man, speaking of Oakland, actually, real quick, the Athletics just played their last game in Oakland last night. I believe it's all that was, wasn't it?
Yeah. So one of my friends was at that game, and there was this guy there who was passing out cupcakes because his dad was a lifelong, Oakland Athletics fan, and he had passed away, so he's out there passing cupcakes to the fans. That was a pretty cool gesture. Like it sucks for the guys from Oakland. Like, man, like they've had all their teams leave. First the Warriors, the Raiders, now the A's. Like, damn, man.
I mean, that's got to tell you something though. Like at the end of the day, when it comes to all of the Oakland teams, they've all given the city of Oakland opportunity after opportunity to fix their field. The Raiders playing on a baseball field was never working for anybody. It was embarrassing. But yeah, I think Oakland they just don't want sports at the end of the day in their city. They're close enough to LA and San Francisco that they said, you know what, we don't need to compete with everybody else.
Crazy, because I mean that's straight revenue. Like, come on.
So we got Noah Fantasy real quick asking in the flex, Jerry Jeudy, Quentin Johnston, or Amari Cooper. I think Amari Cooper is probably the safest of the 3 choice, just due to his matchup this week against that New York Giants defense. However, you also have him attached to Deshaun Watson. So there's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts, no pun intended on the buts part, when it comes to Deshaun Watson being your quarterback. However, I think Amari Cooper, like I said, if you're feeling safe, I'm going Amari Cooper. If you're feeling frisky, we're going Quentin Johnston this week. You're looking at the Chargers. We were just talking about that game, that Chargers versus Pittsburgh Steelers. They're not going to be able to run like they have been in these last 2 weeks. Not against TJ Watt, not against this Pittsburgh Steelers defense. So they're going to have to figure it out this week. Quentin Johnston has been one of their, if not their best wide receiver on the team this week. And they're going to have somebody catch those targets this week. So like I said, if you're feeling frisky, you're feeling froggy, leap on Quentin Johnston. If you're feeling like risk averse, you want to go safe, you're already 0-2, I'm taking Amari Cooper, just not to get too wild.
Yeah, isn't Jerry Jeudy on the Browns too?
Yeah, Jerry Jeudy is on the Browns too, I believe now. I saw him score that touchdown in week 1. I just don't think Jerry Jeudy has got enough involvement in this offense throughout these first couple of weeks. And I'm not saying that it's not going to come at some point, but Amari Cooper has been barely able to eat, and he's the primary target. Jerry Jeudy had a couple catches so far through these first 2 weeks. And like I said, it all depends on Deshaun Watson. Once Deshaun Watson starts looking a little better, or they switch to Jameis Winston, I might feel a little more inclined to be more comfortable with David Njoku with Jerry Jeudy. But right now, Amari Cooper, Jerome Ford, and who was the other one? Not Deontay Johnson. The other running back for the Duke. Is it Duke Johnson? No. Damn. Deontay Foreman. Thank you. I couldn't remember it for some reason. Yeah, Deontay Foreman. I'm also feeling pretty comfortable with him this week. They're looking at him taking some pretty decent carries when it came in that offense last week. But like I said, they're going to have a hard time this week not passing against that Giants offense. So I'm definitely. I think, like I said, Amari Cooper is a safe way to go, but Quentin Johnston could be the boom or bust option that you might consider taking.
Yeah, I think that one probably has the higher ceiling out of the three options he had listed.
Exactly.
Highest ceiling, but also probably the lowest floor.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. That boom or bust, like kind of like Michael Pittman Jr. is going to be this week. You know, Michael Pittman Jr. He's been getting mad targets in this Indianapolis Colts offense. However, he just has not been getting a bunch of catches. They haven't been translating into numbers for him. So, like I said this week on my Stardom Sit-em episode, I think that most of the Indianapolis Colts offense outside of Jonathan Taylor is going to be boom or bust. You're going to be either really happy with your performance from Anthony Richardson today, or Anthony Richardson puts up 15 points, and you're kind of thinking about getting another quarterback off the waiver wires this week.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of Tank Dell, because people are like, how come he isn't producing? Like, he's getting the targets, he's just not catching them.
Yes, yeah, and that's another, because we talked about that yesterday with Tank Dell, just between me and you in that chat. So I think that Tank Dell this week is going to be a very great addition because the Vikings bring their linebackers a lot. And Tank Dell hasn't been able to eat, kind of like Dalton Schultz has kind of been. I mean, when you have all these new additions to the offense, you're trying to get the offense still going again. It's going to take a while for everybody to kind of get their bits and pieces of the pizza when the pie comes out the oven. But you're looking at Tank Dell, that this being the game that Tank Dell really can thrive. They're going to be doing a large focus, hyper-focusing on Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, and with those linebackers bringing the pressure, that leaves Tank Dell sitting right there at that second level for those quick dump-offs that C.J. Stroud is going to need to use all day today.
Yeah, definitely. No, I was looking at the numbers before we got on, and so Minnesota blitzes a lot, and C.J. is actually one of the better quarterbacks against the blitz. So if he can get the ball quickly, I mean, Tank Dell's right there, because again, they're going to focus mostly on Nico. This guy's looking like a top 5 receiver right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Really keep his own this season. He's giving me these Andre Johnson vibes. Like, I grew up watching him. I was like, man, like big guy that you think, oh, he's not that fast, but he'll blow right by you.
For real. All right, so let's see here. I just got the injury report in. It's live right now, so they're adding things to it. So let's see. We got 2 more morning games to go through. We got that Broncos versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa Bay this morning. What's your thoughts on that matchup, Broncos Tampa Bay?
Man, who saw the Baker Mayfield resurgence? I thought that guy's career was done.
That was the other quarterback I was thinking about, not Sam Darnold. It was Derek Carr and Baker Mayfield that were the top 2 quarterbacks in fantasy.
Well, he's found a home in Tampa, and I think on the broadcast they had mentioned it. Sometimes with these quarterbacks, it's about finding the right fit. Like, you can go number 1, but it doesn't mean that you're gonna immediately put up Hall of Fame numbers. Like, some guys, they struggle. Like, looking at Bryce Young, I don't think the Panthers are the right fit. I think him finding a new home is probably going to be the best thing for his career. But yeah, going back to Baker, man, like, he's thriving in Tampa, and man, the Denver team.
Yeah, man, that Denver team is definitely hard to watch, and that's one of those. Like I said, I think I enjoy the failure of Denver more than I enjoy the failure of Dallas. Because the Cowboys, you know what I'm saying, at least they've been a pretty decent team. The Broncos, I live in Denver, and Bronco fans are some of the most annoying people to deal with. Bronco fans will fight each other in the parking lot after a Broncos win in Denver Stadium. It's pretty wild out there, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I went to Arizona for a game. Great time. Everybody was so friendly out there, so lovely. You go to a Broncos game. I went to a Broncos Patriots game, and I'm in a Colts jersey. I'm not even pretending to be cheering for one of these two teams. It was on Christmas. It was the very next year, and people, they chased us out of the stadium. My friend was a Patriots fan, where he had a Zappy to Pappy sign and all kind of shit, and just of course talking shit to Broncos fans. They start getting like, oh yeah. I went to a Nuggets game one time. Same thing, man. Nuggets. They hate Bulls fans out here. I'm not gonna lie to you. They were like, y'all haven't won shit since Michael Jordan, because we beat the Nuggets in that game, and it was a game the Bulls obviously weren't supposed to win. And Denver fans are just angry people, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. When it comes to sports, we're up there, man.
I would honestly, I would have never guessed that.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, and I'm pretty sure that people that live in Carolina think Panthers fans suck if they're not a Panthers fan. I'm sure people that live in Houston are like, man, fuck Texans fans if I'm not a Texans fan. Maybe it's just a product of living here, but Bronco fans get pretty hectic.
I think with our home fans, we're pretty inviting of other fan bases, unless you're a Titans fan, because they talk too much shit.
Yeah.
y'all take our pick, and then y'all try to talk shit and haven't won anything. No, other than Titan fans, we're pretty cool with other fan bases. Like I went to the Sunday night football game, and I was hanging out with Bears fans. Like we were talking shit. Obviously it was friendly banter here and there. But like after the game, we're like, hey man, that was good. Like good luck on the rest of the season. Like, hey, you want a beer? Like just.
Yeah, like it's been a really long time since the Indianapolis Colts sent me a paycheck. Like, I'm not gonna fight you over them. Like I will argue with you until my face turns blue, but I will not fight you over the Indianapolis Colts. That's just not me.
Hey, I'm not on the payroll yet. No, if I'm on the payroll. Hey, you know what? Whatever.
I'm saying if I'm fighting for the company, then I don't know, man. That's a different story. But we got one last game to talk about here in the mornings, and this game I'm very conflicted on. Green Bay Packers, Tennessee Titans. On one hand, I would love the Titans to beat the Packers, because fuck the Packers. And the Titans aren't – I mean, one win for the Titans isn't going to help them much in the standings in our division right now. Anyway, but at the same time, if the Titans beat the Packers and the Colts couldn't beat the Packers, then I'm starting to get really upset. Right. So, like, I think the Packers need to win this today for Colts fans to feel like we're not worse than the Titans.
I think this is more a must-win for the Packers than it is for the Titans.
I agree. Because this is one of those games that if the Packers are able to beat the Colts, which was, like I said, with Jordan Love, that Packers-Colts game would have been kind of what you saw last week. I thought it would have been a good game. But I thought that the Colts would absolutely dominate the Packers last week. That was me. I look stupid. Look at me looking all stupid and shit out here on live TV. But I'm looking at it and I'm saying this Green Bay Packers team, if they can – I mean, they had Jordan Love questionable today. So if they can go 2-0 without Jordan Love – in two games that they could have lost without Jordan Love easily, and they're able to tread that water, that's looking good for the Packers as far as their standings, because the NFC, things have kind of flipped in the NFL recently. The NFC is not the powerhouse of the NFL. All of the best teams in the NFL seem to be coming from the AFC. You've got the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Niners, but then you got like the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bengals. The AFC just seems to be the more strong division, more strong conference right now.
Yeah, in the AFC, you'll have a team with a winning record miss the playoffs.
Exactly.
Like, it is that jam-packed. No, but I think for the Packers, this is the most, because they're in the NFC North. That is one of the best divisions in football right now. Like all those teams, they all have that chance to have winning records.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially with Detroit not coming out the gates the way that you would have expected them to. I feel like the Packers, people were kind of like the Colts were looking at in going into the year. Everybody was like, yeah, obviously CJ and the Texans, they're put together, just like the Lions are at the top of the NFC North. But then you got the Green Bay Packers, have a lot of questions, but they're a good team, decent coaching staff. They can make a push for the playoffs. And I feel like our divisions are very similar in that aspect. And the Packers, with being able to tread this water without Jordan Love throughout these first couple of games, and get through some of these tough matchups, they're actually going to be able to come out, I think, at a 3-0 start, or a 2-1 start if they beat Tennessee today. And then you'd be looking at them getting Jordan Love back most likely next week, and they're looking in good position.
Yeah, no, it's funny because like last season, people were like, oh, the AFC South is terrible. We had three teams that had a chance to make the playoffs. It's just the AFC is that stacked because you had the Texans with 10 wins. You had the Colts and the Jaguars with 9 wins each. Like, yeah, I see the signs, they were trash. But like you had three teams with, if we were in the NFC, we'd have made the playoffs. All three teams. But
exactly.
It's a tough division. It's the same thing with the AFC North. I mean, the NFC North. Like, you can't drop games there because it's going to be a close race to see who gets those, couple playoff spots in the NFC.
Absolutely. So before we finish off the rest of the afternoon games, I'm going to run through all the teams really quick and give you guys kind of some of the key inactives as far as fantasy football goes and things like that. Like I told you guys at the top of the hour, you're looking at George Kittle being inactive today. He had I think a hamstring injury during the week at practice. George Kittle is out today. So George Kittle owners, make sure you go out there, hit that waiver wire right now and snag up a free agent tight end. As far as the Cardinals, it doesn't look like many offensive players on the Cardinals are going to be out. You're looking at Xavier Weaver, but who has him on their roster right now? Carolina Panthers, same thing. You got Jonathan Brooks still on that non-football injury list, but no new inactives. I also did hear, I haven't got to the Colts yet, but I did hear that the Indianapolis Colts didn't label anybody out this week that was questionable in practice, which is a great sign because even through this first 2 weeks of the NFL season, the Colts have had Juju Brents and Julian Blackmon, defensive back and a safety, missing in the games. We lost DeForest Buckner. We suffered through some injuries. That was a huge that DeForest Buckner one scares me, and that's why I'm starting DeAndre Swift this week in my flex position.
Like the Colts had trouble stopping the run with Buckner. Without him, man, it's going to be tough for you guys.
Yeah, the Colts are allowing 237 rushing yards per game right now. More fucking rushing yards than have been seen in the last 40 goddamn years in the NFL. Like it's, I can't. And we just lost our best defensive lineman. So that's really cool for us. I really am appreciating that right now. Moving to the Chicago Bears side of the game, though, you're looking at Keenan Allen being out. So maybe Romo Dunze starts to get a little more action this week. You're looking at DJ Moore. Will he be able to get things going without that number 2 wide receiver in there? We shall see today. Let's see. Moving on to the Cleveland Browns, you're looking at David Njoku being officially out with an ankle. All of y'all looking at Tyler Conklin on the waiver wire from Thursday Night Football are like, okay. Where can I find a Tyler Conklin right now? As far as the Packers, they have officially made Jordan Love out for the game, which we were all expecting coming into the game. So no real changes on the Packers thing. And then the Texans, you're looking at Dameon Pierce being out with a hamstring and Joe Mixon being out with an ankle. I did not know they were both out.
Yeah, that's why I picked up Cam Akers. He should get the bulk of the carries because behind Cam Akers, you have Dare Abungawale, who's our backup kicker. So he's going to get about 95% of the touches. As far
it's
as
actually funny. I picked up Cam Akers in like 3 of my 5 leagues this week. I saw him on there and I was like, yeah, because I picked it up before Dameon Pierce went out because I thought that he would get a little more work than Dameon Pierce. I didn't realize they were both out of the game. That's a pretty shitty loss for the Houston Texans on that one.
It's going to be the Cam Akers revenge game because he was on Minnesota and they cut him.
Yeah, exactly. You shouldn't have fucking cut me. Thank God Jacksonville Jaguars Evan Ingram is out, so I don't even have to question whether I put him in my starting lineup this week. He's been absolutely killing me in fantasy football. I said at the beginning of the year, I look so stupid right now with Evan Ingram. At the beginning of the year, I was like, Evan Ingram is gonna be a beast in fantasy football.
You were because last year he had 1,000 yards. Like he had a year last year.
Yeah, I think this Jaguars team is really they're one of the more almost confusing teams to watch in fantasy or in football right now. Just because you're like, is Trevor Lawrence good or are we trash?
No, he's trash. He's okay. He's just Daniel Jones with a Head and Shoulders sponsorship. Like
exactly. Because honestly, I'm not seeing very many like fantasy football injuries here. You're looking at like for the Chargers, Josh Palmer is out. For the Rams, obviously the Rams got Cooper and Puka out, but no additional players. Vikings, no Jordan Addison. Saints got no Taysom Hill. You said what?
No, with Addison, you're gonna have anyone that has Justin Jefferson. He's gonna have the game of his life because who else are gonna throw the ball to?
My boy Bradley Noble, thanks for checking out the show. He said Bears fans are gross. I agree with that. I'm not gonna lie to you, but they're everywhere. It's like a disease. I don't know.
They really are everywhere. But the ones
Bradley Noble said, "Is Zach Moss to be trusted?" I'm not gonna lie to you. I think I can trust Zach Moss this week. You're looking at the this has become a lot less of a committee than we thought it was going to be in this Cincinnati Bengals running backfield. And you look at what Zach Moss did last year when JT wasn't running. He was one of the top 3 running backs in the league throughout the first 5-6 weeks of the season last year.
Half the season almost.
Exactly. And I think that the Bengals get up out and early and often on this Washington Commanders on Monday Night Football. They better. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. If they don't, there's a lot of questions for Cincinnati. So I think game script is going to open the game up for Zach Moss really well this week. And I would definitely trust Zach Moss this week. Well, I just said, go Bears us. Misspelled it. It's funny, man. Let's see here. Taysom Hill's out with a chest injury. AJ Brown is out. Like I said, Christian McCaffrey, Debo, George Kittle are out. And then lastly on the Tennessee Titans, not really anybody. You're looking at Jabari Small, backup running back, being out, but that's about it right now. So thank God, fantasy football fans, outside of the injuries that you already knew, the injured reserve players, there's really no surprises this week, which is awesome. Outside of George Kittle, that was probably definitely a surprise to George Kittle owners, but I'm not one of them. So.
No, I have the unfortunate luck of having Mark Andrews, who was playing left tackle week one. I was ready to jump off a bridge. Like, bro, what? I didn't want playing left tackle. What are we doing? No.
I was ready to jump off a bridge last with Mark Andrews at left tackle. Yeah, that definitely was matchup based. I've got Isaiah Likely on my sit-em list this week just because I think that first week was kind of not a fluke, but it was matchup based. They ran I think double coverage or safety coverage on Mark Andrews 80% of the time that he was out there running routes. So, and it ended up working well for them. So.
Yeah, he had a bounce back week last week. Hopefully, he can help me out this because so in 2 of my leagues, I'm 0-2, so I need a win this week. And my other one, I'm 1-1, and I don't care about that other league that I'm 1-1 in, but the other two, that's big money. I need to win.
Yeah, I'm 2-0 in one league, 0-2 in another league, and then 1-1 in my other 3 leagues. So I'm not hitting the panic button on any of my teams yet. I know I've one of my leagues, my most important league, I haven't been scoring as many points as I want. I've been scoring in the 90s. I'm trying to get over 100. It's non-PPR, but I'm trying to definitely get over 100. Before we get into these afternoon games, I want to give you guys a quick little parlay, a little degenerate parlay that I want you guys to put in here. If you guys are following me on the parlays, we're going to be going with all touchdowns here. This is going to be my favorite players to score a touchdown here in today's games. I'm going Malik Neighbors with an anytime touchdown against the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to be going with Justin Jefferson with an anytime touchdown against the Houston Texans.
It's a safe bet.
I got Saquon Barkley, anytime touchdown against the New Orleans Saints. Lamar Jackson, anytime touchdown against the Dallas Cowboys. And last but not least, Brandon Ayuk, anytime touchdown against the Los Angeles Rams. I'm not going to lie to you. Those feel like some of the safest touchdown parlays you can go with this week.
No brainers.
I'm looking at $20, turns that into $1,400 for you on your FanDuel account.
Man.
Yeah, man. See, that's what I'm saying. We got to go out there and get that money. We all eat here on the Huddle Chat Sports Network. Now let's finish things off here with these last few games that we have. I know we have the afternoon slate, Sunday Night Football, and a pair of Monday Night Football games that we got to go over. I'm not really going to spend too much time talking about the Panthers-Raiders game. That goes up there with the Giants-Browns game. We get one at each slate of the day that you just really don't feel like tuning into very much. But I definitely I talked about it a lot in my matchup based episode for fantasy football earlier this week. I think Andy Dalton might mess around and turn this offense around. I'm feeling pretty comfortable with Adam Thielen, like not comfortable enough that I'm starting Adam Thielen over some of my guaranteed starters. But if you need help at the wide receiver position, if you got Michael Pittman at wide receiver 2 and not really many options on your bench, you might be looking at going out snagging up more than a Thielen off your waiver wire and seeing what he can do today. Last time Adam Thielen played with Andy Dalton threw 56 passes in that game. Adam Thielen had 11 targets, 9 catches, and over 130 yards and a touchdown. So,
yeah, that was last year. I had Thielen in one of my other leagues, and yeah, he was gold in PPR because he got all the targets.
Yeah, I'm saying Adam Thielen with Andy Dalton was great last year. Adam Thielen with Bryce Young was exactly what it's been these first 2 weeks. Not very fun to watch at all. But the Raiders, Gardner Minshew, there's really not much to be said about here. Outside of Devontae Adams, I'm saying Zamir White. I think Zamir White has a pretty decent game. This is game script for Zamir White this week, which is what I think has been keeping him down.
Brock Bowers has been he's been one of the top fantasy tight ends so far this year. And
Brock Bowers has been very surprising. I'm not going to lie, because when you look at historically the tight end numbers, and I started looking at the rookie tight end numbers a lot during the Kyle Pitts season. Historically, rookie tight ends don't play that well. So can Brock Bowers sustain it? I think he can, to be honest with you. When you look at the targets in Las Vegas that are around him, outside of Devontae Adams, who else is he really throwing the ball to out there? Gardner Minshew loves throwing to the tight end, coming from the Indianapolis Colts that ran 3-4 tight end sets all the fucking time. So I definitely think that Brock Bowers can sustain a steady fantasy football production this year.
Yeah, and he has the hairline of a 50-year-old insurance salesman, so he's going to put up Hall of Fame numbers this year.
Getting drafted to the Raiders will do that to you. Moving on to that Miami Dolphins Seattle Seahawks game, maybe not as interesting as it would be with Tua in the lineup, but I'm not really panicking too much on many Dolphins players outside of Jalen Waddle. I'm going to be taking the seat on Jalen Waddle, but really, you're just managing your expectations when it comes to Miami Dolphins players. Devon Achane, will he be as explosive or more explosive? You're just going to be managing those expectations. Tyreek Hill will still be Tyreek Hill. Most of his plays, it's not like Tua is throwing 80-yard passes like Josh Allen or Anthony Richardson that are hitting Tyreek in the end zone. You're taking Tyreek Hill right across the middle for a slant, and he's taking it for 70 yards.
Yeah, slants and screens. So he does all the work.
Yeah, so Tyreek Hill, he does all the work, so I'm not worried about Tyreek Hill. I think Jonnu Smith might be a sneaky tight end play, especially with a lot of these big tight ends being out this week. I was big on Jonnu Smith coming into the year, and Skylar Thompson loves to dump off to that running back position and that tight end position, just like any young quarterback would. So I think Jonnu Smith might be a sneaky tight end play for you guys today as well. Probably one of the more interesting games on the slate is going to be that Detroit Lions Arizona Cardinals game.
Ooh, that's going to be a shootout.
I think it's going to be a shootout. You're looking at the Lions being away, which I think is their first away game of the season. Typically, Jared Goff doesn't play. At least last season, Jared Goff didn't play as good away that he did at Ford Field. And they're both 1-1. Both had one really good game and one just kind of dud performance. Yeah. So this game is very interesting on many levels because it's two teams on paper that you expect to be in a shootout, but it's two teams that have had one great game and had one struggle game. So which team really gets it right today? What do you think?
I think with I'm gonna go with Arizona on this one. I think the Lions they're struggling a little bit, even though they have all these pieces on offense. They're struggling a little bit. In Arizona, they're starting to figure it out. They figured, hey, you know what? Maybe we should throw it to the 6'4" guy that can run, 4-3. That might be a good idea.
Exactly. I think the Detroit Lions surprisingly are struggling to find their identity so far in 2024. They knew that they knew their identity last year. There were some dogs, you know what I'm saying? I feel like maybe it was that wide receiver documentary. Something had changed for Amon-Ra St. Brown in this offseason where he was not being represented as like an underdog wide receiver. You know what I'm saying? Amon-Ra is expected to be a top 10 wide receiver. And I feel like there's been a lot of changes like that around the entire Lions organization. Just like we talk about the Texans, when you're playing as a team with nothing to lose and you win 9-10 games, everybody's like, holy shit, look at the Lions. But if the Texans or the Lions win less than 10 games this year, people are going to be like, that was a failure for the Houston Texans or the Detroit Lions off of the expectation that they set for themselves last season.
Yeah, it's weird. Like you said, with the identity, you can see clearly Jahmyr Gibbs is the better running back, but you continue to push David Montgomery as the lead back. Come on, clearly this kid's better. Give him the bulk of the carries. Why is there still a committee?
Exactly, man. It's I understand it on paper because of how much they pay David Montgomery, but like you said, when you're watching football, if I'm playing Madden, I'm not putting David Montgomery in to take any carries on third down.
Jahmyr Gibbs should be your primary back, and you'd have Montgomery as the red zone guy, the short yardage.
It's kind of like that shit that happened last week with the Indianapolis Colts. We haven't talked about it. Jonathan Taylor not being in any plays in the fourth quarter after running for over 120 yards and on 12 carries. And it's then they're like, yeah, no, Jonathan Taylor is just not that great of a pass catching back. Well, I feel like instead of running Nyheim Hines and Trey Sermons, we should just fucking get Jonathan Taylor more equipped in the passing game.
Yeah, the best way to get better is getting reps.
Did you see the Titans taking Derrick Henry out of the game on passing situations? Hell no. They were taking Derrick Henry, throwing him a screen on 3rd and 26, and he was taking that bitch to the house.
Exactly. And he wasn't known as a pass catcher, but he's our best player. Give him the ball.
For real, and I appreciate Jonathan Taylor coming out and saying, there are other running backs on the team that have skill sets as well. But I'm not going to lie to you. Goodson dropped that pass on 4th down in Houston last year and it kept us from the playoffs, and I still haven't forgiven him for that. So I'm surprised he's even on our roster. And Trey Sermon, I just feel like 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, every day and twice on Sunday, I'm taking Jonathan Taylor over Trey Sermon in every situation on the football field.
I was really high on him coming out of the draft, and man, he was just such a disappointment in San Francisco of all places. You could get a guy off the street; he'll give you 100 yards with the 49ers, and him not being able to do that at all, bro, it's yeah.
Well, see, I feel like the Niners have had the problem, kind of like the Ravens and the Chargers have had. You go into the year before they had Christian McCaffrey, they would go into the year, you would think you knew who the running back was. For the San Francisco 49ers, they would take 3 running back injuries in the first 6 weeks of the season, pick somebody, Devin Singletary up off the street, and he's the best running back in the league. It's that scheme from the Shanahans, man.
It's a cheat code almost. You just have to have the right players to, win championships. They will get success, but it takes the right players to win Super Bowls.
Exactly. I definitely think that we can get it done today. We got 10 more minutes left here on the live stream. We've already talked about that Ravens Cowboys matchup a little bit, but I think that the Ravens are going to come out on top. They're 0-2, so I think that the Ravens
This is a must-win game for the Ravens. Being one of the best teams in the AFC, I don't care who you are. Starting out 0-3 is never a great start to your season. The Indianapolis Colts almost made it to the playoffs, but almost only counts in hand grenades and horseshoes, not horseshoes on your helmets. So we're going to be looking at that Baltimore Ravens-Dallas Cowboys game. I think the Cowboys at home, the Cowboys have a weird problem where they play to their competition. If the Cowboys are playing the Panthers, they're playing the Saints, they're going to look like they did last week. But the Cowboys, I think, are going to surprise. They're going to keep up with the Ravens. They're not going to get their ass beat by the Ravens. But I think that this being a must-win game for the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, two-time MVP, I definitely think that the Ravens come out with this game on the road.
I think it's going to be a blowout, honestly. I think the Ravens, they needed more. And Lamar, he plays in prime time during the regular season. This guy is amazing. Now, playoffs, different story. But during the regular season, this dude turns into Michael Vick.
Absolutely.
Like we've seen it year after year after year. Now, there's a reason he's, a two-time MVP.
Exactly.
So he's definitely going to step up because, again, they cannot go 0-3. Not in the AFC North. Not in that. Again, that's another division where you could have, possibly 3-4 teams fighting for a playoff spot. So you can't start 0-3. Absolutely
not. Especially in their division. Even you got the Bengals, you got the Browns making the playoffs last year. Definitely, especially even in their division, they can't afford to start 0-3. And then the last game on the afternoon slate would have probably been one of the best games on the slate if it wasn't for just an absolute slew of injuries. I think these are the two most injured teams, the San Francisco 49ers and the Los Angeles Rams. You're looking at no Cooper Kupp, no Puka Nacua on one side, no Christian McCaffrey, no Debo, no George Kittle on the other side. Pretty much this is going to be a preseason game with the starting offensive and defensive lines.
Feels like it.
like I said earlier, I like you're looking at Jawan Jennings, some players that you wouldn't expect in a normal situation to get some involvement. Of course, Jordan Mason, I think, is going to have an absolute stunning game. The Rams don't have Aaron Donald anymore, and it has been very apparent when it comes to their run defense this year. So I definitely think that San Francisco should run away with this game. But with that slew of injuries, it's really hard to tell. I feel like this is the most any given Sunday game because does Matt Stafford deal it all around to unknown Demarcus Robinsons all around the field and win this game? Or does Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan go with this mediocre backup offense and get it done? I really don't know. It's hard to predict.
Well, for me, I go with the team with the better quarterback, and that's Matthew Stafford. I'm not the biggest Brock Purdy supporter. I don't really believe in him. He plays with the Avengers on offense. Like anybody will look good in that team. Matthew Stafford has done it with no names. He did it last year. When Cooper Kupp went down, nobody knew who Puka.
Yeah, nobody knew Puka. Yeah,
it was a fifth round pick. Nobody knew who he was. No one expected him to have like a historic, season for wide receivers. So I think with Stafford, he can get it done with anybody.
And people tend to forget that it's not like Cooper Kupp's crazy athleticism, superstar ability that makes him so good. It's the fact that he gets 20 targets a game.
Yeah, like he ran in the combine, he ran like 4.6, 4.7. He's not super crazy athletic, but he's very cerebral. He's a great route runner, and he has strong hands. And he gets like you said, 20 targets a game. It kind of helps.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's that volume that you get in that Rams offense that really is it. But personally, I think I'm going to go the opposite. I think I go with the team with the better coaching staff. You're looking at the Niners having, I can't tell you the last time I watched an NFL season where the San Francisco 49ers weren't in positions like this. They're always struggling with injuries to their key players. Like I feel like the Niners every year, like I said, they always lose their Jordan Mason. They always lose their running back. I don't know what they put on the turf out there on the practice field, but running backs do not have long careers in San Francisco for some reason. They just cannot last a full season. But I think that the Shanahans, they get it done time and time again. There's a reason Brock Purdy looks, as a mediocre quarterback, looks like one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league time and time again. I think it's the coaching staff. I think it's the scheme. And you're looking at the Niners having so much time to prepare without Debo, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, that it's not like they went out during the game. Same thing with the Rams, though. I think this is going to be an interesting matchup, but not interesting enough to watch yourself. I'll have it on Red Zone, of course, but I'm not tuning into this game.
Yeah, I might check the score and see how it's going. If it's something that's like 35, okay, let me change the channel real quick.
And to be honest with you, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the primetime games. I'm fairly upset with the primetime games this week. Of course, Atlanta made me eat my words last week. Atlanta played great on Monday Night Football, but you got Kansas City versus Atlanta Sunday Night Football. And then Monday Night Football, we got two games, Jacksonville versus Buffalo. Cool. and Washington versus Cincinnati. Like, who the fuck looked at the schedule this week and said, "Oh yeah, Jacksonville in Buffalo, that would be a fire Monday Night Football game to put on."
Right. That's the game we all want to see.
That's the game we all want to see. Yeah, nobody want to watch the Baltimore Ravens, Dallas Cowboys on primetime. And I hate seeing the Cowboys on primetime, but I would much rather watch Baltimore Ravens, Dallas Cowboys, Detroit Lions, Arizona Cardinals, even Miami, Seattle would have been a better game to put on there. Then you're looking at no point in the offseason did you look at this and say, this is a good matchup right here.
Yeah, like with that Jaguars game, like they struggled against mediocre opponents. Now they're going against Buffalo, who is surprisingly good without Stephon Diggs. Like they haven't played their best football yet. Like Josh Allen hasn't had, a Josh Allen game yet. And they're 2-0.
Heck
Going
yeah.
against a team like the Jaguars, it's going to be a massacre.
Absolutely. We got one last question to go through here today, guys, and we're going to wrap things up. Make sure you drop any questions you have before we get out of here. Elijah says, do you think the Chiefs defense will do good against the Falcons? I think it depends on what your definition of good is. The Chiefs defense is never known to be a stout defense. And you're looking at what the Falcons were able to do on Monday night. And the Chiefs don't have a much better secondary than the Philadelphia Eagles do. I think that the Chiefs can do well. But I don't think that they're not going to be the worst defense on the slate this week, but they're definitely not going to be a top 10 defense this week.
Yeah, with the Chiefs defense, they count on turnovers because they don't really stop a lot of teams. But without those turnovers, yeah, because the Falcons are going to play it smart. They're going to focus. They're going to get the ball to Bijan, which they should because he's your best player on offense.
Yeah, it's like starting the Indianapolis Colts offense. The Indianapolis Colts, if that first week against the Texans, you know what I'm saying? Well, if you can get a couple of turnovers, a couple of blocked punts or something like that, the Colts are always good at, a pick six but if they're not getting turnovers, they're not getting those interceptions. We don't generate many sacks. We allow tons of yards. So it's just not really a defense that I would want to put out there. But if you're needing a streaming defense, that's not a terrible matchup for the Kansas City Chiefs, but definitely temper your expectations. I don't think you're going to get more than 6 points from the Chiefs.
Yeah, because again, if they don't get turnovers, they're one of those defenses is basically bend don't break. So they'll give up yards, field goals, but unless they're getting turnovers, they're not going to get a whole lot of points for you.
Exactly. So Rios, before we get out of here, man, tell everybody where they can find you out on YouTube and stuff. What you got going on up here coming up?
All right, so you can find me on the Just Fans podcast. You can just search Just Fans 22 on YouTube. Same thing on Twitter and on Instagram as well. This week we have an episode on Wednesday with the AFC Roundtable. Hopefully more than one team has a win this week.
Yeah.
Other than that,
I'll definitely be there on the AFC South Roundtable, of course, this week. I don't even know why I didn't even get the notifications. I forgot it was Wednesday. The Packers beat us, man. That's all I can say.
No, me and Poppy did the show by ourselves, and we talked a little bit about the other matchups with you guys, and we kept it pretty cordial because can't talk shit if nobody's there.
Of course, yeah. Can't talk shit. They're not there to defend themselves. But yeah,
right.
we'll definitely be live. What day is that? Wednesday that we do the AFC South Roundtable? Heck yeah. And then And then you do do you do a recap show on Mondays too, right? Or Tuesdays?
No, so we do the roundtable on Wednesdays, and our more professional show is on. We record it on Thursdays and release it on Fridays.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. All right, yeah. So definitely, guys, make sure you check us out on Wednesday together on the AFC South Roundtable. Check him out over on Fridays as well. You can check out that episode with him, as well as Carlos. Poppy's there as well. Some of the people that we talked to on the AFC South Roundtable. Rios, it was great having you here today, man. I normally do this all by myself. This is the first time I've had a team member out here on this pregame show, and I'm sure the fans loved it today. Thank you so much, brother, man.
Appreciate you, brother.
Of course, man. Hey, guys, make sure you share out the show to your friends. Let's get this up to 250 subscribers on YouTube right now. And be safe out there, guys. Make sure you always keep your chin up and your attitude down. We cannot have nobody running around with their heads down anymore, guys. I love y'all. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Stay tuned for the outro, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace out. forgot to